Welcome to Multichain Nation. Today we have Jen, co-founder and
Hey,
chief AI officer of KIP Protocol. Welcome, Jen.
hey, nice to be here.
Nice to have you. I'm excited to learn more about KIP. So let us know right into what is KIP Protocol about?
Well, KIP was designed to be the base layer for AI in Web3, which doesn't mean that we're an L1. What it means is that we're building infrastructure and tools that AI developers, who are maybe AI native but not crypto native, are going to need if they want to accept payments and interact trustlessly and permissionlessly in Web3. So that is right now. It's mainly targeted at, well, up until now, it's mainly been targeted at bigger entities, so governments and big companies and so on. We've been doing partnerships with Open Campus. We've got a few government contracts going on, but more and more, I would say, it's targeting the smaller developers, which was always our goal, but it was so difficult to develop AI on a small scale until now that the demand wasn't necessarily there. But we knew that it was coming, and now I think it's finally here. It's people who want to vibe code and agents or whatever. And
Mhm.
in that case, yeah, you setting it up to accept payments in Web3 is no more difficult and often a lot easier than accepting payments in Web2,
Oh, for
especially
sure.
if you're in a country or a state or wherever you are that objects to specific AI models or to specific sizes of models or whatever it is that the state of regulatory uncertainty that you're in. Being able to do this permissionlessly makes a big difference to developers in that case and improves, AI freedom worldwide, I would say.
Especially in a world where we have so many microtransactions going on and all of our agents and AI and Web3 and it's everything is communicating so fast and on every little part of communication a gaming transaction or if a API transaction or if there's a command for your agent to do something and different commands can cost different amounts of money. It's nice to be able to go through that through the blockchain because like you said, it's hard to use Web2 for that. It's too many barriers, too many red flags, too many roadblocks. It's hard as an individual to be able to create something meaningful without getting blocked.
Yeah, and I think what Web3 is really doing when it comes to AI is splitting things down into smaller chunks so that you can start small and then grow a business rather than starting with $100 million raise and then growing a business, which most of us can't do.
No.
But if you have these sort of compute splitters there's a lot of them in Web3, obviously DeepIn and so on, that will sell you just a little bit of a GPU that you can use from time to time. That makes a big difference if you're a small developer. If you can take payments in Web3, makes a big difference if you're a small developer. If you can demo your trading agent and show that it's trading on chain, which was our first sort of mass consumer option. That was a big deal for us because obviously you can say, oh, I've got this agent that is trading stocks, or I've got this agent that predicts financial changes or whatever. But if the data isn't public and verifiable and transparent, then you have trouble when someone says prove it. But if it's all on chain, then it's clear what is going on. So yeah, it's Web3 is really kind of helping the little guys get into AI at this point. And
It
it
mu-
doesn't get nearly enough credit for what it's doing, especially
no.
among AI professors and so on. They kind of overlook this. But yeah.
Yeah, I keep hearing oh, blockchain's old, AI is a new thing, but I'm like, no, they're going to work together. They need to work together. It's not AI cannot succeed without blockchain just because of what how you're describing it, the way to transact between people and agents. We need a blockchain system.
Yeah.
And it kind of
Yeah, yeah.
reminds me and it kind of reminds me how you're saying individuals being able to either raise money or build software. That's kind of how the cloud all started. It's because individuals couldn't build giant servers, expensive servers at their home or at an office space. It's too expensive, too much work, too much maintenance. But being able to just quickly check some boxes and get a VPS to your needs is so much cheaper, easier, and faster. And now it's accessible where anyone can just launch a quick
Yeah.
VPS.
100%. And I think the other big thing is the fact that Web3 people tend to be so much more open and
Mm-hmm.
open-minded to these sort of things. So obviously AI agents have been around for a long time, and they were kind of an academic curiosity for a long time. And then obviously when LLMs got good, agents leapt forward in terms of sophistication. But in the universities, they built some agents. They built the little Stanford University town with people talking to each other and stuff. Um, and they kind of realized, okay, well, this is too unpredictable to be useful and too predictable to be interesting. So whatever, we're just going to give up on agents for now. But Web3 got really into it when everyone else was giving up. And Web3 has really kind of pushed the bar on what agents can do just because they were willing to tolerate shitty agents, basically, within
Yeah,
the first few months until they started to get really good. So yeah, it's not just the tech, it's also the ethos that people bring in Web3.
that's what I love. Web3 people just love to work in the trenches because they see the rainbows coming out in the future. Like they understand it, but it's hard to envision it as like a day-to-day consumer. But if you're in their building, you'll see it.
Yeah.
Now that you said that you're not an L1, so tell us more about your tech and how you're using Axelar and what your development is like.
Okay, so what we built first and what is in use on Open Campus, the Open Campus platform, for example, is essentially just a way for the different contributors to an AI app, which would be the app designer in the front end, and then the model provider and the data provider, to all work together and all get a share of the revenue, so that you don't have you know the model guy capturing all the value
Mm,
or the stealing data or whatever. Everyone is getting paid. And in such a system, obviously, you need a unified transaction currency. This having one guy paying in Pepe, one guy paying in Doge, one guy paying in ETH, etc. doesn't really work, and that's before you even get to the whole multi-chain aspect. So that is what the KIP token was set up to do. But different systems obviously can use their own tokens. They can use ETH, they can use USDT. A lot of people like to use USDT, obviously, because it's stable. But so within that context, we wanted to actually be as multi-chain as possible because, especially if you're doing microtransactions, no one wants to do microtransactions on mainnet. But it's useful to have a mainnet presence just to be able to, start out there and then bridge to others as easily as possible. So that is how we ended up partnering with Axelar to do all of this stuff. So right now we have some of our infrastructure is actually on mainnet. Some is on other chains, like so Open Campus, they made the L3, the EDU chain. So there's infrastructure going on there and using their tokens and our tokens and so on. There's a lot of stuff going on in ARB, so we have our nodes on ARB as well, and obviously there was all the bridging for that we needed a reliable partner because even bridging like a couple of $100 is kind of nerve-wracking. So if you're doing a large amount of pre-release tokens, then it's really stressful.
oh
So
yeah.
yeah, that was our setup, and now we're working with I would say account abstraction partners as well to be increasingly multi-chain.
Nice. Yeah, and using Axelar seems like a good fit to becoming multi-chain and having cross communication between different chains because it is hard to just pick one chain, especially in a time like now where everyone's fighting to like be the dominant blockchain, even though I feel like there never will be a dominant or sorry, the one blockchain is going to always be some type of rumble.
Yeah.
And I'm appreciative of protocols like Axar who are kind of just solving for the greater good of making it accessible to everybody.
Yeah, and I think you're right. The whole one chain to rule them all thing is just not going to happen. I mean, last cycle I set up a hobby project, a game on Polygon, and this cycle, so we never bothered to raise for that. It was just something we were doing for fun. And then this cycle came around, and we thought, oh well, maybe we could make something of this. And every single person I take it to says, "Why are you on Polygon? Why aren't you on Sol?"
Wow.
So it is such a changeable market that yeah, multi-chain is necessary. Yeah.
Hmm. And what was your implementation experience like using Axar? So, did you have an easy time implementing it, or was it difficult? Like, give me your developer mindset about that.
Oh yeah, no, that was honestly the least miserable part of the developer experience. I've got to say, so many other things caused us just a ton of problems. Even sort of weird little basic stuff like managing multi-sigs. Our trading agents are supposed to trade out of multi-sigs, but trading out of multi-sig is a horrible experience and the transactions fail. It's just simple things that are supposed to be easy to do and turn out way more complicated. The bridging was like the one easy part, I've got to say, and it helped that we had really good tech support as well. It's sort of, for me, that's what makes or breaks a product.
Hmm.
I mean, it wasn't the case in this case. The basic product is great, but I've worked with products that kind of sucked, but I stuck with them because they had great tech support. I could, message them at 4 a.m. and some guy would come and debug. So yeah,
Wow.
it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, and I think people underappreciate the customer service, tech support, developer relations that Axelar provides. It it makes a huge difference. We're developing in a 24/7 high-paced industry, and we need things to be as clear and as helpful as possible. Just because you build something, no one's going to use it if you just don't actually provide something like documentation or assistance in using it. So
Yeah, I mean,
big kudos.
especially in Web3, but the AI hasn't really caught up with the state of the art yet. So you can't just ask GPT to solve
No.
your problems.
Solve your own
Yeah.
problems. Uh, so, what is KIP's current state, and what do we have to see in the future?
Okay, so we've got a couple of projects that we're focusing on. We've got some hopefully big announcements coming in education, which has always been one of our main verticals. So we have the Open Campus platform, we have partnerships in Thailand and so on, and we've got a couple of big government deals, hopefully in the pipeline for that. But also, as I mentioned earlier, that just the fact that stuff that you only massive universities or governments or Google or whatever could do, even just 6 months ago, now any developer can do. Sort of setting up an agent. When we first got into agents, I had to build everything from scratch. There's no MCP, there's no nothing.
No.
Just building the infrastructure was a huge chore. And now with Google's ADK, with MCP, with everything that is out there, it's just got so much easier. And that means that there's a lot more opportunities for regular users to use the kind of powerful infrastructure that we originally created for governments and big businesses. So what we've gradually been doing is moving a lot of what we built previously to more consumer-facing platforms. So the big one, obviously, is Superior Agents, which is out now. Totally autonomous trading agents, and that started in 2019. I filed the first patent on this in 2020 when I was
Wow.
in university, and obviously then it was really clunky, and you've got your little robot doing stupid things, and hopefully it gradually gets it less stupid. Um, and now
That's so cool.
it's like you can just tell Google to make an MCP server and do most of what I spent 6 months doing by hand. Um, so I'm not mad, I promise. But
But you know it into its detail, into its core of like how it all works. Nowadays, people just type things into ChatGPT or even just Google search results, and you just ask a question and it pops up. But the architecture of how it's all happening in the back end, that's something that's I feel like is getting lost in education,
yeah,
and it's something you have, and I kind of wish, I hope that's more taught in like just grade school, middle school, and like university. It's like this is how technology works from its like bare bones and its architecture, not just go online and just ask a question.
yeah, yeah, definitely. And I think this it's obviously it's a consumer product, and we play around with it, and we send our agents out to trade perps, and we've been having a competition recently between Bored Apes and Azukis. So which are the better trading agents, and that is going to be rolling out on a bigger scale with KOLs competing and so on. But underneath it all, it is legit deep tech. So you're setting up your agent, but what you're also doing is contributing to the overall framework. And the whole idea behind this framework is this idea that models, if we want to have super intelligence, if we want them to get smarter than humans, they need to be able to generalize on data that they generate themselves, which right now isn't possible. They produce slop and slop, and the slop gets worse as the iterations go on, and it just collapses. So what is really big right now in AI, sort of the Googles, the DeepSeeks, and so on, just got into this, is reinforcement learning. So that they're all trying to rush out self-play reinforcement learning or curated synthetic data reinforcement learning and so on. And what we want to do with these agents is empirical reinforcement learning. So the idea is you're not just telling an agent to generate as much slop as possible and retrain itself on the slop. You're telling it, okay, here's $500, go out and trade. And because it's interacting with the real world rather than just its own thoughts, you get this much more entropic data that will hopefully help us take a step forward towards ASI.
Yeah, like that makes sense. And like you said, kind of giving it, like for me, how I tell people how to learn about like Ethereum, just buy some Ethereum and then you're automatically going to go ahead and search, learn, understand, instead of just listening to TikTok videos telling you how much money they've made overnight. That's all scams, by the way, everybody. Don't listen to those TikTok influencers, but like go out on your own and put some skin in the game and try to really understand what's happening. And that's the best way to learn. So that's kind of how you're training your agents is here's some money, here's the market, do some trades, see what happens and figure it out.
Yeah. And they do remarkably stupid stuff, and it's always entertaining even when they do stupid. A couple of weeks back, a bunch of them bought into this one single honeypot token. They all heard about this honeypot token and aped in, exactly like human traders. And then
So
buying
not
the
so
wrong
different
ticker.
after all.
That's the other one. They see a meme coin come out and they're like, oh yeah, I want some of this, and
That's
manage
too
to get
funny.
something with the same ticker and a different contract address, which
That's too
again is
funny.
very human. So yeah.
Yep. That's too funny. We're not so different. So KIP is growing. KIP is, you have your open campus, you said, so people can get involved there. But how can the community members that are listening now get involved with KIP? What can they do? Where can they support? What should they do?
So obviously the agents are the big one right now. So we're kind of gradually moving from closed beta to open beta to just let's go nuts. So we had initial testers from the community in there making their own agents, and I sort of gave them $50 and waited to see what would happen. Then we've got the KOLs from Bored Ape and Azuki coming in next week, I think. Oh, it could be this week at this point. And if people are really keen to try this, A, just message me and I'll get you a code. Or B, it is actually fully open source, so you can run your little agent on your desktop and have it trade for you from there. But this open source, it's designed to be as accessible as possible for non-coders, especially now you have AI vibe coding and so on. But what we're also doing is a summer school. So that is a summer residency where you can actually get paid to study this and then make a project, and the best projects win a prize. So that is on our Twitter, and you can find it quite easily.
Man, what I would give to be back in college at this time, just to like go into these residency technology programs I keep hearing about, especially in Web3. It's so awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. The guy who organized this for us, he did a lot of stuff for Ripple as well. So he was at Ripple and then he came to us, and he's doing DevRel for us now.
Wow. Well, congrats again, Jen. Like, this sounds awesome. I love that you're deep into it. You're really bringing AI and Web3 put together, and it sounds like you're taking all the right steps. So I'm excited to see what comes of KIP, and thank you so much for taking the time to go through it with me.
Oh, well, thank you for having me on. It's great chatting.